Hey up, it's Steve from Old Yorkshire Geek, and welcome to my Sunday, Sunday evening now for me, live news stream. Where I've got some geeky articles, nerdy stuff, I don't know, whatever, genre, whatever you want to call it, for us to have a look at. Star Wars, Star Trek, blah, 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 stuff like that. And a bit of Big Cat at the end, which I found, which not links out in the description for that yet. But anyway, so welcome to the show. Pop the comments on, there we go. Before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already. I'm also live on Rumble. Hopefully, we're live on YouTube. Let's just double check. Yes, we are. We're live on YouTube. We should be live on Rumble, and yep, we are. Two watching right now on Rumble. One of them's me, and we're also live on Twitch. There we go. Right. One of these days I'll try another one. I have tried Odyssey before, didn't like it. They seem to want me to pay them for some reason to put my videos or my live streams or whatever on their channel, so on their service. And it wouldn't let me. It said, you don't have enough credits. I thought, I'm not buying bloody credits to put my videos on your bloody streaming service or your video thing. So I dropped Odyssey. There's Kick, isn't there? I'll try Kick maybe at some point. We will see. Anyway, so we're on there. Later on, it'll be on Spotify and Amazon Music Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Fingers crossed. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just moving things out of the way. I never have things to hand, do I? I'm just moving me this certain DVD, Blu-ray, sorry, that we might be looking at tomorrow. But hang on, there we go. Links are also in the description for my two books: Silent Predator, a short horror novella about big cats roaming about northern England. I wonder why I cover big cat stories, don't know. And Mercury Rapids, a light-hearted sci-fi action adventure about UFOs and stuff like that, and abductions and space battles and the moon and all this stuff. It's all just a bit of fun. They're on Amazon Kindle and paperback. Kindle's cheaper, obviously. But there we go. Right, let's get on with the news. Make myself titchy tiny. As if I'm not titchy tiny enough. Right, first off, I'm a working. Yes. First off, this is from yesterday. Star Trek Strange New Worlds getting a musical episode. Excuse me. Presumably a la Buffy. I know the series have done it, but I've not seen them. I've only seen the Buffy one. Paramount Plus, by the way, there's Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, and Ethan Peck as the stars of Strange New Worlds. By the way, the latest episode of Strange New World dropped last night, early. So I've got a review for that on my channel, so check that out. Right, Paramount Plus has announced that Season 2 of its space adventure Star Trek Strange New Worlds will feature a musical episode dubbed Subspace Rhapsody. This show will premiere on August 3rd and include 10 original songs. This will be the first musical episode in Star Trek history, set in the 23rd century, a decade or thereabouts, before the events of Star Trek, the original series. Strange New Worlds is a Star Trek spin-off that follows the intergalactic travels, well, not intergalactic, interstellar, travels of Captain Christopher Pike, Anson Mount. This is what happens, you see, when you get writers who don't understand the meaning of words. Christopher Pike and his crew on the USS Enterprise. I've no room to talk. I'm useless. They include science officer Spock, Ethan Peck, Una Rebecca Romaine, Pike's right-hand woman, known affectionately as Number One, and linguistics specialist Uhura Celia Rose Gooding, and others. Jess Bush as Nurse Chapel. I can't remember his name. Somebody playing Dr. Mabenga. I'm sorry. Babs. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Paul Wesley plays James T. Kirk. Oh, he's also got his brother, Sam Kirk, is also part of the crew. Don't ask me who plays him, I have no idea. Paul Wesley plays James T. Kirk, an officer who will eventually take over as commander of the Enterprise with Spock and Uhura by his side. And there we go. Video unavailable, so it can't show us it. But don't worry, I've got it covered. we're going to have a look. I hope we don't get a copyright strike, but we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. It's on YouTube, so let's see. Right, pop it back up. Right, I'll just mute my mic. I'll mute my mic while I play this. I'm just gonna play it. See what happens. By the way, this is the trailer for the musical episode Subspace Rhapsody. Sorry.
People celebrate with song. Do you know the odds of all of us being here at this time? It's improbable. And yet, here we are.
There we go. So that was a trailer for Subspace Rhapsody to make sure we're still going. It says excellent connection still. Yes, we're still fine. We're still fine. So I better check. So it looks fun. I must admit, it does look fun. That's it. Kind of reminiscent of the Buffy episode, Once More with Feely. I know other shows have done it, but I haven't seen them. So it looks fun, but it's just a case. Let's just get rid of that. It's just another case of actors and actresses showing off their musical chops because they love stuff like that, don't they? Basically. Anyway, so it does look fun. It does look fun. Got to admit. But it's going to be all take us to warp, Mr. Ortegas. Although it's Mrs., but never mind. Stuff like that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on before I embarrass myself even further. There we go. Next up, Star Wars. Ahsoka could introduce Star Wars' coolest space superstructure. Let's fill in some plot holes. There's Palpatine from The Rise of Palpatine. One of the benefits of the Star Wars TV universe being set between the original trilogy, of Star Wars TV universe, being set between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy is its ability to belatedly foreshadow. Snoke appeared out of nowhere in The Force Awakens, so The Mandalorian Season 2 showed us a bunch of failed Snoke clones. No, it didn't. It showed some clones, but we were never told that one of them was Snoke. We saw the clones in Rise of Palpatine, but The Mandalorian, it's never really made it clear that there were Snoke clones. We just assume that they are, but I don't think anybody's ever said they are. I don't think anybody connected with Star Wars, John Favreau or any of them. I don't think they've ever said there were Snoke clones that we saw, in the tubes. What's this, some kind of tube? Anyway, we know Palpatine will eventually return, so cloning technology ripples further throughout Mando Season 3. But that handy technique isn't limited to The Mandalorian. The upcoming Star Wars series Ahsoka is already doing a lot to fill in blanks in the timeline. The show is set to feature multiple characters. By the way, did I mention that links for all these stories in the description? Well, they are. The show is set to feature multiple characters from the animated series Rebels, including fan favourites Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, and Grand Admiral Thrawn. But as it turns out, Ahsoka might also be bringing an iconic space structure into live action as well. There's the star map seen in the Ahsoka trailer. In one key part of the latest Ahsoka trailer, we see Morgan Elsbeth, the villain from that Ahsoka-focused episode of The Mandalorian Season 2, where Ahsoka got her Beskar spear thing from, that she gives to Mando. Activate a device that projects what looks like a star map surrounding her, Ahsoka, and new character Balon Skull, the late Ray Stevenson. Many fans noticed a similarity between these holographic orbs and the star maps used in the non-canon video game Knights of the Old Republic. In the 2003 game, the maps were corrupted, and the player needed to find 5 to patch over. Find 5 what? I don't know. To patch over the errors and locate something called the Star Forge. I've never played Knights of the Old Republic, by the way. No, I'll say I've never finished Knights of the Old Republic. I've got it and I've started it, but I've not got very far into it. The Star Forge is a massive automated shipyard created 30,000 years before the events of Star Wars by a powerful species known as the Rakata. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. They're aliens, what does it matter? Fueled by a nearby star, it could operate independently, pumping out fully constructed spaceships more or less forever. This makes it the perfect tool if you're trying to overthrow a nascent republic. And there's a hologram of the Star Forge from Knights of the Old Republic. There we go. So does it look similar? In that it uses arcs and curves and circles, I suppose. Don't see that in the middle, though, do we? Not that I can see, unless that's it. I doubt it. Anyway, after the release... hang on, I'm going to see something else. No. After the release of The Rise of Skywalker, the logistics of Palpatine's huge Exegol fleet... confused... Sorry, it's just funny. It's funny as The Rise of Palpatine. It is. Confused fans, leading some to theorize he had access to the Star Forge. If a map to the Forge is appearing in canon, it could explain how Palpatine was able to build such a massive navy without alerting anyone. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because you can't get to Exegol except by going through that little narrow passage. Never mind that you could come at it from any direction. And Lando and all those others managed to get there fine, didn't they? Never mind, it's a stupid film. It is a stupid film, but funny. And how Thrawn can secretly assist Palpatine during the events of Ahsoka. A Starforge appearance wouldn't come out of nowhere. At the end of Rebels, Thrawn and Ezra Bridger ended up in the unknown regions where the Rakata thrived. Thrawn may have already found the Forge, which would mean Ahsoka and Sabine will not only have to find Ezra, but stop Thrawn from from aiding Palpatine further. They can't stop the Forge completely. We already know Palpatine ends up with his fleet. They can at least prevent it from becoming overwhelming. The Rakatan star map on Kashyyyk in Knights of the Old Republic. There was also a reference in Andor that seemed too unusual. Oh, excuse me. Oh, where did that come from? That's we starting a show at 9 o'clock at blooming night when I've been up since 7:30 in the morning. Anyway, we'll start again. There was also a reference in Andor that seemed too unusual to be simply be a coincidence. When Luthen Rael entrusted Cassian Andor with his Kyber crystal necklace, he told him it was Blue Kyber Skystone, the ancient world, celebrates the uprising against the Rakatan invaders. Oh, did he say that? Oh, right, very good. I've never noticed that, you see. Because I don't pay attention, plus I had no idea what Rakatan invaders were. Dropping a Rakatan reference out of nowhere could be a hint of what's to come. Ahsoka Tano has seen pretty much everything. We've watched her go from spunky Padawan, Snips, to frame traitor, where she left the Jedi Order, to a self-exiled former Jedi, to Grogu's mentor. If Star Wars is going to introduce such a huge plot point, it makes sense that a wandering character like Ahsoka would be the one to stumble across it. Palpatine has been murdered twice now. Not been murdered, he's been, defeated and, resulting in his death. But it's not like murder, is it? But you still can't remove his influence from Star Wars. He's the ultimate supervillain, and while Thrawn may be gunning for his crown, even that will serve Palpatine in the long run. Though we may not see his wizened face again. It's good to know he's still pulling the strings in the background and finally explaining his latest appearance. I won't be surprised if we do see him again, even if it's just in the form of hologram. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to burp. Oh, bad me. Right, so that's very interesting, is that? I said I missed that Rakatan reference, but I'd never heard of the Rakatan anyway. Anyway, never drink it. So very interesting. Very interesting, which means it's probably not going to happen because, fan theories and stuff like that never happen because we always give the writers too much credit. They never think of this sort of stuff. Right, so let's get rid of that. And move on. Oh, I've done it again. Oh, dear. There we go. By the way, I forgot to mention. Well, not mention, but I forgot to. Oh, it's not there now. Oh, never mind. Or is it on something else? It might be on something else. Yes, it's on there. Sorry, never mind. It's the last story. Never mind. I know what I'm talking about. Honest. Right, next up. Sticking with Star Wars, Darth Vader almost played one of the best James Bond villains. And I was thinking, I wonder if James Earl Jones were up for Kananga in Live and Let Die. But no, it wasn't that one. One of the best James Bond villains terrified us all during our childhoods, but he might have been even more terrifying had the Star Wars legend played him. I don't know. By the way, I did have a sneaky peek. I generally don't read these articles. I just see the headlines and think, that sounds interesting. We'll explore it together. But I did have a sneaky peek because I was fascinated at this article. Didn't read it properly. I just had a quick look. Right, the role of Darth Vader in Star Wars took a number of talented actors to make it work, with James Earl Jones's iconic voice of "Good evening again." Oh gosh, on the back. Should have had some coffee. With James Earl Jones, with James Earl Jones's iconic voice giving one of the best movie villains of all time his trademark gravitas. But the man in the suit making it all happen was Bristol-born bodybuilder David Prowse, and they also did the voice on set. You're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. What you changed my voice for, George? Why have I been overdubbed, me love? Prowse, who passed away in 2020, luckily I met him not long actually before he died. Well, maybe a year or so before he passed away. Got his autograph, me and my lad, and they were really proud that he was a MBE, something like that. We were really proud of that. Anyway, Prowse, who passed away in 2020, had a difficult experience making the Star Wars movies and was left disappointed. Oh, here we go. When the filmmakers overdubbed his lines with Jones. Oh, dear. I'm trying to think of some of the other lines of his. Send a detachment down to retrieve him, Commander. Nothing will stop us this time, my duck. Anyway, however, Prowse's level of prominence in Hollywood around this time opened up a number of doors for him. At one stage, there was talk that he could square off against James Bond, writing in the Big Issue, which is a magazine in the UK for like homeless people. It supports homeless people. Homeless people will sell the Big Issue to make some extra money. Writing the Big Issue, Prowse explained that he was in the frame for some big roles at the tail end of the 1970s, including several of the best action movies of the era. He said, I don't go around boasting about the fact that I was Darth Vader or in 3 of the biggest movies of all time. It was also the Green Cross Code man in adverts and public information films in the UK about road safety. I was offered the part of Conan the Barbarian before Arnold Schwarzenegger. Sorry, I'm just thinking of... Because we all know I'm not a huge fan of Conan the Barbarian. It's fine, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But, you can't think of anybody else but Arnold as Conan, can you? And the old, "Hear the lamentation of the women" and all that. Imagine Dave Prowse saying that. "Hear the lamentation of the women, my dear." Anyway. Before Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I came very close to getting the part of Jaws in the James Bond films, who thankfully doesn't speak, although he does speak in Moonraker, where he says, "Here's to us." But that'd be "Here's to us, my duck," if it were Dave Prowse. But it was of course played by oh god, bloody brain stopped. Richard Keel. Hello, Joshua. Welcome to the show. Happy Sunday. Yes, I'm falling asleep already because it's 9:20 at night here. Oh, sorry, in the evening. I'm yawning. I'm doing it again now. Woo. Oh, slap my face. Bring myself round. Anyway, where were we? I came very close to get the part of Jaws in the James Bond films. I could have been Darth Vader, Conan, and Jaws. How about that? But I'm happy with the one I got. The metal-toothed henchman Jaws appeared in 2 of the James Bond movies, starring Roger Moore in the 1970s, debuting in The Spy Who Loved Me, and returning for the widely reviled Moonraker 2 years later. And I've got to say, Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker are my 2 favourite James Bond films. So there. And there's Roger fighting Richard Keel. Richard Keel, oh, there we go, ended up playing the character who is certainly one of the most memorable Bond baddies. Yeah, because he was in 2 of the films. I don't think that happened very often, apart from Blofeld. In terms of pure physicality, Keel was even more impressive than Prowse, standing at 7 feet 2 inches in comparison to Prowse at a mere 6 feet 6 inches. So the next time you're watching your way through the James Bond movies in order, it's worth bearing in mind that it could have been Darth Vader behind those metallic chompers. By the way, they made him sick. They made him retch and gag. Those teeth, which were designed. Not made, but designed, drawn by, I forgot her name, Stanley Kubrick's daughter. Anyway, so there we go. So it could have been Jaws, could Dave Prowse, but it wasn't. By the way, Peter Mayhew played the Minotaur in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. Just thought I'd throw that one in there for you. Right, next. Where are we? Screen Rant, of course. Another Star Wars theory, not the channel. Star Wars Outlaws, Kyle Katarn theory just got debunked. Exclusive. I'd seen some people saying that one of the characters were going to be Kyle Katarn, but apparently not. It's not going to be. Joshua says, I think Jaws would have been much different with Prowse. Well, yeah. Yeah. Probably. Would he have had lines? I don't know. But anyway. I said Dave Prowse is a big fella, 6'6", and a bodybuilder, and a muscly chap. It was Dave Prowse that trained Christopher Reeve to get into shape for Superman in 1978. But I don't think he was imposing in the way that Richard Keel is. Anyway. Also, really looking forward to tomorrow's live show. Which version of Close Encounters of the Third Kind is the viewing? Well, it's the the collector's edition, the latest one that they brought out. That one. Oh, you can't see it for that. Hang on, I'll put myself full screen. There we go. That one, that version. It's on the Blu-ray. The 30th anniversary Ultimate Edition, but I think it's the collector's edition. I think. Let me double check. The 30th anniversary Ultimate Edition. I think it's the same as the collector's edition. I think it's the one that's got some scenes that they've put back in from the original theatrical version. It's also got some scenes from the special edition, but they've taken out the end scene where he goes into the UFO at the end, which I didn't mind that scene actually, but they've taken that back out again. Spoilers, but yeah, it's that one. Right, where were we? One of my favourite films of all time, which is why I'm doing it. Right. Right, where were we? A popular Star Wars Outlaws theory surrounding Kyle Katarn has just been officially debunked at San Diego Comic-Con. Sorry, San Diego. It's German for something. Debunked San Diego Comic-Con in a Screen Rant exclusive interview. Right, here we go. A popular Star Wars Outlaws theory surrounding the true identity of one of its main supporting characters, Kyle Katarn, has just been debunked in a Screen Rant exclusive interview at the San Diego Comic-Con. The upcoming open world game will take place in the criminal underworld between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which led to fans speculating about what characters from this era could cross paths with the scoundrel protagonist Kay Vess on her journey, with crime lords such as Jabba the Hutt already confirmed to make an appearance on Tatooine. One of the most popular theories was that one of Kay Vess's allies, Jalen, may actually be Kyle Katarn. Kyle Katarn. I just remember the baddie at the beginning of Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, played by Chris. Oh, what's his name? Oh, he was in Dracula AD 1972 and other things. Anyway, he's been in Star Trek as well. Anyway, whatever. It may have to be Kyle Katarn from the popular Star Wars Dark Forces and Star Wars Jedi Knight games of the 90s. Excuse me. Katarn did use several aliases during this time as a mercenary, so it didn't seem too out of the realm of possibility that he could be the one offering Kay and her faithful axolotl companion Nix freedom from their lives of crime and the Imperial pursuit via a final daring heist. So will we see the Mouldy Crow? But no, because if it's not Kyle Katarn, we won't. Which one is Ship, by the way? Unfortunately for some, Star Wars Outlaws developers confirmed at San Diego Comic-Con that Jalen is not Kyle Katarn. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Despite the two characters sharing an extremely similar appearance, in that they both have heads. I suppose they do. They do look similar, don't they? I must admit they do. Even a similar dress sense, sort of. So, yeah, I bet he is. I bet he is. Anyway. Gonna watch once you're off the air. There are 3 versions: original, special edition, and director's cut. I think I've got them all somewhere. I'll say I've got lots of versions. But yeah, it's one of my favourite. One of my favourites is Close Encounters. Was hoping that was Katarn. I bet it is. I bet it is. I bet they're lying. They do lie, don't they? These people. There's not character similar appearance. Speaking to Screen Rant, Ubisoft developers Julian Gerety, I pronounce it, creative director, and Navid Kavari, narrative director, confirmed that Jalen is a brand new character, with Gerety stating, "It is not Kyle Katarn. It is a character you're going to be working with that has their own motivations. It's impossible for us to talk more about it without revealing too much." He's going to be Kyle Katarn, but just under a different name. That's why they're saying he's not Kyle Katarn. I think he's going to be. And there's Kyle Katarn in Jedi Knight 2, Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. I think that's from that. Originally, Kyle Katarn had many tie-ins to Star Wars' original trilogy and its characters, at one point seeking out Luke Skywalker to reconnect with the Force, and later teaching alongside him in Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Katarn even played a part in the retrieval of the Death Star plans to aid the rebels prior to A New Hope. I didn't see him on Thingamabob Scariff. Anyway, never mind. Unfortunately, with Disney's acquisition of the franchise, a lot of these stories, along with the wider Star Wars extended universe, were made non-canon, and films such as Rogue One opted to tell a new tale about the doomed mission to acquire these plans instead. One of the main reasons fans were hoping for Star Wars Outlaws Jalen was Kyle Katarn was that it could re-establish the character somewhere in the series as new canon, even if elements of his past stories had been retconned. They could say he were at Scariff. They could have the Mouldy Crow could have been in the Battle of Scariff. I mean, we saw the ghost, didn't we, from Rebels? So we could just the Mouldy Crow could have been in there somewhere. So it could have helped. Sadly, it seems like this will not be the case, and that Kyle Katarn's future in the Star Wars universe remains non-existent. While this will disappoint fans hoping to see the Imperial officer turned mercenary turned Jedi Knight returning after almost 3 decades away, it does allow Ubisoft and Massive Entertainment to craft a completely original character whose dynamic with Kay can shift more fluidly depending on the player's actions and dialogue choices, something that seems to be a major part of Star Wars Outlaws' gameplay, rather than tying his fate to pre-established stories. Star Wars Outlaws will release sometime in 2024. I bet it is. I bet he is Kyle Katarn. I bet you £1 is Kyle Katarn. Just one person, not everybody. It doesn't really matter. There's only 2 people watching, so I'm only £2 down, am I, if it's not? So anyway, so there we go. So according to some big fibber at Ubisoft, he's not Kyle Katarn, but I bet he is. Just under a different name. You know, like Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't playing Khan, he was playing John somebody or other. But it was Khan. You know, they all lied about it because they just do. Because they just do. All right, next. Star Trek Strange New Worlds just explained why Spock is emotional on the show. It's all coming together in canon thanks to Star Trek Lower Decks. The latest episode of Strange New Worlds, as I said earlier, I reviewed it today. It's up on my channel, and there's Spock having a good laugh. He does a lot of that in this latest episode. It's quite disconcerting, to be honest, but it's supposed to be. Right, one of the oddest things about Star Trek Strange New World has been the way Spock seems to waffle back and forth. Waffle? Back and forth from being the stoic we all know. I mean the stoic character we all know. And love, all know and love, to a guy with a lot of emotions. This week's Strange New Worlds explained why that's happening and put it all in context. It happens in the episode Those Old Scientists, streaming early on Paramount Plus right now, when Boimler, Jack Quaid, and Mariner Tony Newsom from Star Trek Lower Decks, which takes place in Strange New Worlds' future. It's in the 2380s, I think. It's like in between Next Generation and Picard. It's like in between that time. I forgot where I was now. Travel back in time and show up. SHO. Unbelievable. Show up in live action on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Spock, Ethan Peck, laughs at something Boimler says, and Boimler freaks out because the Spock he knows isn't emotional at all, and he worries he has accidentally ruined the timeline. It doesn't matter though, it's ruined already, isn't it? Well, not ruined, it's a new timeline, it's a different one. No matter what they say. But it is amusing. I did like the episode, by the way. I didn't think I was going to because I'm not a fan of Lower Decks, although I've started watching it again. I watched episode 1 again, and it did get me cross at times. And I don't like that they're always talking really fast. But even that's mentioned in this episode. So they say in the episode, have you noticed how people talk really slowly in this time? Because in Lower Decks, they're always talking really fast and, going from one thing to the other. What do you think you're doing? All that, that's how they talk. But not with Yorkshire accents. Right. Later, however, things get clarified for Boimler. He learns that Spock was acting like this before he arrived, which means it's not something he's caused. And then he talks with Spock and his new girlfriend, Nurse Chapel, about it. Actually gets a bit upset. Does Nurse Chapel? It's quite endearing, but I'm a simp for Jess Bush anyway. Joshua says, "Yuck! They keep deconstructing and reconstructing Spock. Drives me nuts. That episode was gross because it's like Spock forgot how to be a Vulcan." Oh, last week's, yeah, the one last week. Yeah, I was saying that. How did he forget to be a Vulcan? He was turned human, but couldn't he remember how he acted when he was Vulcan? It was a bit silly. I didn't hate it, but it was a bit silly. And they're not doing Spock any favors, are they? But it's a new timeline, so they can do whatever they want. It's not the Spock that's going to go on, in my opinion, in the original series. Right, where were we? Chapel and Spock's discussions with Boimler make it clear that really this is just a phase. Spock is much younger in Strange New Worlds. Well, about 10 years younger-ish than he is in the original series. He hasn't figured out who he is yet, and he's still trying to figure out his human side. There's some precedent for this. In the original Star Trek pilot, The Cage, which takes place before the year of Captain Kirk, and takes place before Thingamajog, Strange New Worlds as well. Spock can be seen smiling in several shots, such as that one. In the real world, Spock smiling in the cage happens because they hadn't figured out the character of Spock yet when they shot the pilot. Now that weirdness has been fully integrated into canon. Yes, Spock is so emotional on Star Trek Strange New Worlds that he has to play the Vulcan liar to calm himself down. But he's young. It's just a phase, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds isn't trying to change Spock. Of the future we know, the Spock who buries his emotions and doesn't shake hands at all. And that's it. There we go. Yes, I suspect now we'll not see him smile again. I think he'll be the unemotional Spock from now on. But we will see. I could be wrong. I probably will be. So many dadgum timelines. Yeah, there is. There is. So many. But there we go. That's why Spock is emotional. He's exploring his human emotions because he's with Nurse Chapel at the moment because he's kind of taking a break. Spoilers, by the way. Kind of taking a break. Him and Tippering are on the split up temporarily. So I suppose she's off with Stone and he's off with Chapel, but they never mention it in the original series that they had a fling. That's because it's another timeline. Right. Let's move on. Right, back to Star Wars again, I think. Yep. Yeah. There we go. Star Wars. John Boyega confirms if he is finally open to playing Finn again. And there he is in Rise of Palpatine. As Disney prepares for the return of Star Wars to the big screen, some stars from the franchise have a new perspective on returning. John Boyega, who portrayed Stormtrooper turned rebel hero Finn, in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, has recently discussed potentially reprising his role following some notable setbacks. In a 2020 GQ interview, this is going back, this isn't the recent thing. In a 2020 GQ interview, Boyega openly expressed his frustrations with Disney's handling of his character and the vitriolic backlash actors such as he and Kelly Marie Tran received from toxic fans. They didn't. Not really. They did, but not to the amount that they claimed. You're in the public eye, you're going to get shit thrown at you. In the 2022 interview with SiriusXM, the Woman King star, what are you in that? Never seen it. Was asked about his thoughts on coming back to the role. At this point, I'm cool off it. I'm good off it, he stated. I think Finn is at a good confirmation point where you can just enjoy him in other things. I feel like episode 7 to episode 9 was good for me. So he's saying he doesn't want to do any more there, isn't he? Since then, with the announcement of Disney's upcoming sequel trilogy follow-up set to feature Daisy Ridley's Rey Skywalker, Rey Palpatine, rumours have circulated regarding Boyega's possible comeback. While nothing has been officially announced, the actor has since been more open about returning, saying in an interview with Tech Radar that those comments were a few years ago. So they were subject of that particular project. But I'm open to all characters and scripts that are enjoyable, have a great cast attached and a terrific director. So yeah, I'm open to all opportunities. Of the roles not being forthcoming, John. Anyway. However, this switch was not out of the blue, as Boyega has noticed Disney's recent treatment of actors of colour. Oh, right, hang on then. Joshua says Boyega was harmed more by what Lucasfilm did to Finn, than by any Jackwad fan that may have messed with him. Yeah, well, yeah, they ruined the character, didn't they? It could have been an amazing character, this traitor stormtrooper. Could have been amazing, but they just threw it away because they had no idea what they were doing. Anyway. What John Boyega had to go through while making the Star Wars sequel trilogy never should have happened. However, the actor's subsequent willingness to address the touchy subject matter head-on may have helped incite change to help similar performers thrive within the franchise. I mean, yeah, there were people saying, why is there a black stormtrooper? Obviously, there'll always be people like that, won't there? They're a minority, a tiny minority. During the release of the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi, Reva Savanda actress Moses Ingram received endless amounts of misogynistic and racist messages across social media. I think most of the messages for Moses Ingram were that your character's crap. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but her character was terrible. Obi-Wan. God, it was awful. However, Disney and other cast members, such as Ewan McGregor, were quick to call out the hate-filled comments, rallying behind Ingram unstintingly, which is fair enough, but there's really no need, to be honest. During the aforementioned Sirius XM interview, Boyega shared how the overwhelming support justified his own experience. Moses Ingram being protected makes me feel protected, Boyega commented. It makes me feel like, okay, cool, I am not the elephant in the room, because when I started, it really wasn't a conversation you could bring up. But now to see how blatant it is to see Ewan McGregor come and support, it, for me, fulfills my time when I didn't get the support. For me to see other people accepted, it's fantastic. It may have been long overdue to see such widespread aid for mistreated actors. But the change has nevertheless made an impact. Don't go on social media. Don't read social media. Then you won't see any of it, will you? Everybody cops for it on social media. That's why it's the bane of the 21st century. But anyway. But the change has nevertheless made an impact on Boyega and his outlook on the Star Wars franchise. There we go. So that were a nothing burger of an article. Is ready to come back. So obviously the roles have dried up for the most part, and he wants to come back. But they'll not make the films anyway. So I don't think they will. I think as I've said before, I think they'll do the Dave Filoni one, but the I forgot what the name now. Him that's done James Mangold, the James Mangold one, and the Ray Skywalker one. I don't think will happen. I don't think they'll happen. Right, next up, Mission Impossible. There's a lovely Hayley Atwell. Mission Impossible star Hayley Atwell admits Hollywood is an industry on its knees. During the London Equity Actors Rally, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 star Hayley Atwell admitted that Hollywood is an industry on its knees. And there she is as Captain Carter. She's like their version of Captain America, but obviously she's British. As the Screen Actors Guild... Oh, hang on. He's not made very good role choices of late either. I don't know. I haven't really seen him in much things. I haven't seen him in anything. So I couldn't comment. Only thing I've seen him in, apart from Star Wars, is Attack the Block and that 24 thing that they did. They were in that one too. And that's all I've seen him in, I think. I know he's been in other films. Right. As the Screen Actors Guild American Federation... Oh, God, it's a bloody mouthful, isn't it? Start that again. As the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, actors strike enters its second week. Members of their United Kingdom counterpart Equity, including Succession star Brian Cox, Mission Impossible star Hayley Atwell, and Selma star David Oyelowo, came out in solidarity in London's Leicester Square. Despite declaring unwavering solidarity with their American counterparts since the strike started, the UK anti-trade union laws state that SAG-AFTRA members currently working under an Equity UK collective bargaining agreement should continue to report to work. Oh, right. Nevertheless, Equity General Secretary Paul Fleming told Deadline, "We are not going to have the UK used as a backdoor to undermine SAG-AFTRA's dispute." Right, there's a tweet last week from Equity, which is the actors' union in the UK. Last week, when our brothers and sisters in SAG-AFTRA went on strike, we said we would stand in unwavering solidarity with them. Today, our members made good on that promise. But if an actor's contracted to be in a film that's filming in the UK and they don't turn up, I suppose they could get sacked, couldn't they? During an interview with Deadline at the Equity London rally, Succession star Brian Cox discussed the significance of residuals for SAG-AFTRA. SAG, or the Screen Actors Guild, or the Film Actors Guild, is an excellent union, but in the US, we don't have a national health service. So what is important to SAG actors is health, and they need that. The X2 X-Men United star told Deadline that's why they need their residuals. Backing The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim stars claim was Mission... Is he in that as well? The animated film that's coming out. Claim was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 star Hayley Atwell, who quoted research to Deadline, which claimed that a shocking 87% of SAG-AFTRA members don't earn enough to qualify for health insurance. There is an illusion that if you are seen on telly, then you're fine. My brother's one of those people, by the way. He seems to think if you're on telly, that's it. You're sorted for life. But you're not. But that's not the case. The Captain Carter star told Deadline, this is not an industry that is thriving. It is an industry on its knees. The Lion Guard star David Oyelowo then expanded on Cox's statement by discussing the growing inequality in Hollywood. The gap between the haves and the have-nots in our industry is widening at an alarming rate. The business has continued to evolve, and the means of remunerating the people who actually make the stuff isn't catching up with the evolution. What do you make of Atwell's comments regarding about Hollywood and the others as well, not just her? But yeah, that's it. Fine. They need to sort out this residuals from streaming, don't they? That's what needs sorting out. But you know, it happened with musicians, didn't it? When Spotify came along, musicians were suddenly getting a fraction of what they were getting when they sold a CD or whatever, or an album. It's a similar thing with streaming. You know, the actors and writers and all that, and the people involved with the film get pennies instead of pounds, don't they? Or cents instead of dollars. So, you know, I hope they sort it out, to be honest. And to be honest, I hope this strike kind of means Hollywood gets a bit of a clear out as well. You know, gets rid of some of the dead wood, so to speak. And we get some good stuff when it's all said and done and over. Right, let's move on. Right, what's this one? This is a fun story. Hang on. I haven't done that. You know what would help the actors if the writing was worth the time and effort of the shows they put out? Exactly, yes. That's why I'm saying hopefully with this strike and lots of shows and movies are going to get cancelled. Fingers crossed. Let's say it'll be a chance to reset and hopefully get some good stuff back in the cinema and on TV again. But we will see. They've got to make money, haven't they? It's the businesses, after all. They're losing money, hand over fist. But you get films like Top Gun Maverick and, you know, enjoyable films that aren't preaching a message, and they do well. So they should do more of that instead of all this being preached at, and, you know, what's the word? Yeah, that. Anyway, right. Next article. Man cleans out his drawers. His drawers? You mean drawers? Unbelievable. Bloody a national newspaper. His drawers, and finds old Star Wars figurine, then sells it for £21,000. A former Marvel UK art director from Kent, has probably already got a bit of brass in his bank account, if he's a director of Marvel. What were I saying? The last article, never mind. Sold an extremely rare Star Wars figurine for thousands of pounds after he found it stuffed in a drawer. Can't you spell drawer? You need ER at the end. Who wrote this? Sean McPaulin. Christ's sake. Pardon me. A man who discovered a Star Wars figure that had been tucked away for nearly 50 years was amazed when it sold for an incredible £21,000. The 2.5-inch Palitoy figure was made in 1978, following the success of the franchise's first film, A New Hope, which was released the year before. But not in the UK. It actually didn't come out in the UK till, I think, January. Went on wide release in the UK, January 1978. I think it had its premiere and stuff in like December. I think it was December of 77. So there. So if anybody from the UK says, "Oh, I was there in May 77 to watch the film," they're lying because it wasn't out then in the UK. The extremely rare Star Wars Jawa figure is only one of 10 to 15 known surviving examples of the coveted brown vinyl cape on its original back card. Manufacturers Palitoy and Kenner quickly withdrew the vinyl cape's Jawa and replaced it with a cloth one instead, as it was cheaper to make. The toy was taken home by the vendor, a man in his 70s from Kent, who worked as the art director for Marvel UK between 74 and 1979. He was sent it as a promotional item, as Marvel were doing a competition giveaway of early Star Wars figures in one of their magazines. And there's the back of it, with the Jawa there at the end. Jawa, with shining eyes and laser gun. The vendor was unaware of how valuable it was until he brought it in alongside some of his old Marvel comics to Excalibur auctions of King's Langley, Hertfordshire, and attracted a hammer price of £21,000. I don't know what that is in dollars. I don't know the exchange rate at the moment. I think we're not far off, are we, each other? I think £21,000 is about what, $19,000 ish. I don't know. Shall we check? Let's check. Yeah, let's check. Exchange rate. Pounds to dollars. There we go. So we want 21,000. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's the other way around. £21,000 is $26,985. So there we go. The £1 is equal to $1.28. I thought it was the other way around. I thought a pound was worth a bit more than a dollar. It's the other way around now because we're on his ass in the UK. Anyway, auctioneer Jonathan Turode. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. It's got a bit warm. Just a minute. Bear with me. Oh, I had to put my little air conditioning fan on. It suddenly come really warm. Yes, inflation's a beast. Inflation, man, it's a beast. Right, where were we? Auctioneer Jonathan Turode said the vendor who worked for Marvel in the 70s was sent this promotional figure as their magazine was doing a giveaway. He took it home afterwards and put it in a drawer where it stayed for 45 years. Or as my mum would say, 45. Was it 45? The donkey's age. No, I don't think it is that, is it? I think it's 42. Anyway, whatever. He had no idea how valuable it is until he brought it into us with some old Marvel comics. He was gobsmacked when we told him this figure is one of the rarest carded Star Wars figures known to exist, with approximately 10 to 15 examples documented. And there it is, with the plastic cape. The vinyl cape on the Jawa was substituted with the cloth cape not long into production, and the UK Palitoy carded variation is even rarer than the USA Kenner version. It's a privilege to handle such a piece of Star Wars toy history, said somebody. Jawas, which have been in Star Wars since the first film, are 3-foot-tall humanoids who conceal their faces and comb the deserts of Tatooine in search of discarded scrap or droids. The world record for a Jawa figure is £40,000, which was achieved in Pennsylvania, US, in March. There we go. So 21 grand for a toy, and I ain't got any left. Actually, I think I have. I might have a Darth Vader figure over there, but he ain't got his cape and he ain't got his lightsaber. I think it's up there somewhere. I think. Maybe. I might even have an R2-D2 somewhere. But it's not in mint condition. Right. Speaking of selling things, there's another story about Star Wars memorabilia. There we go. Rare Star Wars memorabilia, including Holy Trinity, being auctioned. By the way, I've not read this one. I just saw the headline, so I don't know what the Holy Trinity is. Well, I do. It's God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and all that. But I don't think they're for sale. Right, one of the last surviving Stormtrooper helmets worn in 1977 Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's blaster from The Empire Strikes Back, and a treasure chest of other prized props from the enduring franchise are up for auction in Dallas. Movie and TV memorabilia collector John Azarian is selling off 78 of his one-of-a-kind Star Wars props on July 29th, which was my dad's birthday, my late father's birthday, at heritage auctions, but buyers were able to start bidding online for pieces on July the 5th. I'm just checking, make sure no messages or anything. Nope. Right. There are 31 items from the space film franchise, including Carrie Fisher's Snowspeeder. Carrie Fisher's Snowspeeder? She's not even in one. Unbelievable. And a cache of prop weapons, including what the auction house dubbed the Holy Trinity. A trio of lightsabers from the Phantom Menace used in the infamous bridge fight scene with Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Maul. Oh, so that's the Holy Trinity, is it? Every one of these is something. I thought it was going to be, something to do with Luke, Han, and Leia. I thought it wouldn't be something to do with them, but never mind. Joshua says, I have none of my original Star Wars toys. My stepmother sold all my stuff when I moved back to my mother's around 85. Typical. But you get rid of stuff, though, over the years, don't they? Say I had loads of toys when I was a kid that you just throw away, they just, you leave home and they get thrown out, don't they? Because you're not at home anymore. Hey, I've bought some stuff back, since I've grown up. I've got dinky toys and stuff, that I've bought off eBay and stuff to replace what I've lost. Hey, I'm more of a kid now than I was back then when I was a kid. Right, every one of these is something that I always dreamed of holding in my hand. Robert Wilonsky, Vice President of Heritage's Public Relations and Communications, told the Post. We all loved these movies when we were kids. I never imagined that I would get to see in person Luke's blaster or his X-Wing. What is the matter with people today, these articles? X-Wing. Wilonsky continued. It makes these memories tangible. These are no longer just things you see on a screen. They are almost magic when you see them up close. I won't call that magic. It looks a bit... it looks like something I haven't made. Never mind. The stunt, there we go. DL-44 blaster was used by Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker. That's the stunt one. So obviously, one that they've molded, isn't it? That it's probably rubber that he could use, when he's rolling about or whatever. So that's why. It's not a hero prop. Right, another Empire movie prop available for purchase is the miniature X-Wing Rebel Alliance starfighter, which transported Luke in the film. The lots also include an item that once belonged to Fisher, who died in 2016. Fisher, who played Princess Leia in the franchise. Oh, I said Leia, didn't I? I usually said Leia. Anyway, never mind. Sold the Snowspeeder from the second Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, to Azarian to help her mother, Debbie Reynolds, launch the Hollywood Motion Picture Museum. Right, so it was hers, as in she owned the Snowspeeder model, I presume. But she didn't actually use it in the film because you were never got into a Snowspeeder, did you? Anyway, Azarian, by the way, that's an X-Wing. Azarian, a real estate developer, has one of the world's biggest collections of original 1960s TV, superhero, and sci-fi film props, costumes, wardrobe, memorabilia, original script, collectible toys, and autographs, but has special place in his heart for his Star Wars merch. Like most people of a certain age, I remember standing in line for hours to see them in theatres, Azarian said in a release. I spread the collection over all of the movies, and I just like the look of the new Stormtrooper helmet. So when I saw it come up, I had to get it. The look of the new Stormtrooper helmet. So does that mean from Force Awakens? Well, it can't, can it? It says from Star Wars. I don't understand. Never mind. What's going on there? Look at that idiot. Look at that. Joshua says, I always wanted the severed hand and lightsaber. Well, it'll be somewhere, won't it? You'd think so, wouldn't you? It'll be somewhere. Will that? Anyway, so there we go. So those are up for sale, and you can bid on the. Where is it? That must be the link for it. No, it isn't. No, maybe it is. I don't know. That might be the link for it. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look and see. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. If that's the link. Where's it put it? Is that it? Yes, it is. Yes. No, it ain't. It's just another article. Anyway, is there a link on this article for it? Is that it? Nope. Nope. No links that I can see. No, never mind. It's not important. Whatever. Right, next we'll look at the next article then. This is about the creator. There we go. The Creator, how Rogue One inspired Gareth Edwards' new approach to sci-fi movies. It looks good as The Creator, from the trailer anyway. Looks interesting. The director of Star Wars Rogue One, or, just over half of it. Some people have said like about 45% of it were redone by, what's his face, Tony Gilroy. That's the rumour. But anyway. The director of Star Wars Rogue One, Gareth Edwards, is no stranger to explosive sci-fi blockbusters, but he took a more grounded approach for The Creator. Where do you get your ideas is one of those questions you are never supposed to ask, but Gareth Edwards remembers precisely where he was when the storyline of The Creator came to him. I got the idea on a road trip while promoting Star Wars Rogue One. Edwards recalls, I had Thanksgiving off and we were driving to Iowa, where my girlfriend's family is from, and I was just looking out the window. We went past this farmer's field of tall grass. I've read this one before. With a strange building in the middle that looked like a factory. Yes, the creator looks really good. Edwards does good work. Yes, he's a good director as Gareth Edwards. I liked Godzilla. A lot of people said they didn't like Godzilla because, as soon as the monster started fighting, it cut away. And it did sometimes, but not all the time. They were saving it for the end, basically. It was what used to happen in the olden days of monster movies. They'd save it for the end, wouldn't they? You'd get glimpses through the film and then see it in all its glory at the end. Anyway, where were we? Driving past this farmer's field of tall grass with a strange building in the middle that looked like a factory. And my memory is it had a Japanese logo on the side. And I thought, I wonder what they're building in there. Being a sci-fi geek, my first thought was robots. And to be honest, in Iowa, it was definitely robots, right? So I thought, imagine if you were built in a factory like that and escaped, and the first you ever saw of the outside world was this field. Oh, no. Edwards combined the idea with the germ of a lone wolf and cub concept he'd been batting around. And by the time he arrived at his girlfriend's parents' house, the whole movie was plotted out in his head. It's the sort of movie Edwards has always wanted to make. I'm always plotting books and stories and movies out in my head, and then I forget about them and don't write them down because I'm mental. Anyway, it's the sort of movie Edwards has always wanted to make. I felt like if I never get to make another film ever again, I'm going to go for broke on this one, he says. What else did he do? He did Monsters, didn't he? I quite like that one as well. I'm sure he did another one as well, didn't he? In between Monsters and Godzilla, did he do something else? I can't remember. Maybe he didn't. That movie will be an epic sci-fi war movie following flawed, morally complex protagonists. Perhaps not a massive departure for the man who had just made Rogue One a Star Wars story, but Edwards would go about filming this story in a very different way. Throughout his career, Edwards has directed independent short films like Factory Farmed and blockbusters like Godzilla. It has always been my goal to find the Holy Grail, the sweet spot between those two processes, Edwards says. With the creator, Edwards took an almost backward approach to the production of Rogue One. Normally, with a big blockbuster, you design the entire movie. You sit down with concept artists and figure out what the world is like, and there is nowhere in the world that comes close to it. So you build big sets and use a lot of green screen, Edwards explains. Something about that process doesn't feel as real as I would like it to, so I did it the other way around. Edwards and his team went on a global search for locations that were close to what was required by the screenplay. In the end, the movie was shot in 8 different countries, with its crew going to 150 different hotels and travelling 10,000 miles. The idea was that we would shoot the movie as if it really existed, without sets in real locations with real people, Edwards says. Then we digitally augmented the science fiction elements on top of that. Adding those science fiction elements was the job of production designer James Klein, who had worked with Edwards before on Rogue One. Essentially, I knew whoever was the production designer on this film would have to paint 1 million images at the speed of light, because there were going to be so many paint overs, photoshops, and concept art put over the plates that we shot, Edwards says. Edwards and Klein shared a love of films like Star Wars and Blade Runner and the work of iconic designers such as Sid Mead and Ralph McQuarrie, but they also wanted to create a unique visual vocabulary for their movie. A simple way of saying it is, if the only Sony Walkman had won the future instead of the Apple Mac, he jokes. Okay. Their design process involved combining familiar items to create something new and alien. As Edwards points out, it feels new, but reminiscent of something you can't quite place. It does look a bit Star Wars, to be honest. The robot designs, they look like robots you'd see in Star Wars, to me anyway. Like you'd seen like Return of the Jedi, that era of Star Wars. But that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's something, a detriment. Their design process involved, but the bits where you can see through the heads of the thing, that reminds me of AI, artificial intelligence, that Steven Spielberg film, which makes me cry. Their design process involved combining familiar items to create something new. I just read that bit, haven't we? But despite the countless drawings and post-production CGI that went into the creator's science fiction world, it was all built on very real foundations. I would tell anyone playing AI or a robot in the movie, please do not play this as an AI. Don't play this like science fiction. Imagine it is set in the Vietnam War or something. At the same time, while The Creator is a huge film that required a massive team to shoot, Edwards was keen to keep the set itself very small. I wonder how much it cost. I'm going to look it up and see what the budget is. We were often filming just 3 or 4 of us and the actors, and it would look like a tiny student film at times in terms of the number of crew, Edwards says. He points to a shot in the trailer of Gemma Chan running across a beach under fire, a shot that was filmed on an open tourist beach in Thailand. I thought we'd get so many tourists taking photos of us, but nobody came up to us because we just looked like some YouTubers or something. We totally got away with it. The Creator opens the theatres on September 29th. I'm going to look it up, see what the budget is. The Creator budget. On an estimated, is this what we're talking? Yes, it is. On an estimated production budget before tax incentives, are you ready? $86 million. Unbelievable. $86 million. That's nothing, is it, these days? Yes, Joshua, just beat me to it. That's nothing, is it, these days? Really, to be completely honest. Not for a film that's like effects heavy like that. That seems to be. And I bet it's good. I bet it's really good. You don't need to spend $250 million on a film. I'm sure there's like these Marvel films and Warner Brothers film, DC and all them, and all the Disney films and Star Wars stuff. Even the TV shows are costing like hundreds of millions of dollars, aren't they? Like I say, I'm sure there's some money laundering going on there. They're building an ark to go to space. They're doing something. That's where the money's going. Anyway, let's do some Star Trek, eh? Let's do some Star Trek. Voyager Flashback, our Star Trek episode, almost launched a new series. And there's Catherine Janeway, the lovely Kate Mulgrew. I preferred her when she had the long hair. I like Janeway with the long hair. I did, but never mind. During its 7-season run, Star Trek Voyager boldly pushed the boundaries of the franchise's narrative to places few Star Trek series had gone before. You been watching it? Yeah, I've been watching it. I don't hate it, but I don't particularly think it's amazing either. It's something to watch, but I've not been reviewing it because I don't think it's particularly good. But it's not rubbish either. So I'm watching it. There's only one episode left, isn't there? And I was like, oh right, is that it sort of show? It's one of those, isn't it? $212 million that series cost. Unbelievable. I don't know why. I don't know how, but anyway. Well, there was a thing, wasn't there, on I saw an image, I don't know if it was on Twitter or Facebook or probably both, of Samuel L. Jackson sitting with a gun in front of a green screen, and the gun had dots on it, and then the image next to it showed what appeared on screen, and he was just sitting in a room with a gun in his hand. I thought, well, couldn't they just made that set? All the special effects to do that, it'd probably cost more than just building a set. They're destroying Fury. It's gross. Well, yeah, they seem to be, don't they? They seem to be. He was this amazing character. When we first saw him at the end of Iron Man, this mysterious character, wasn't he? And all through the MCU, he was there as a chess master. He was the one moving the pieces, wasn't he? Were Fury. But now they're just like not all, but like most men in charge. He's been emasculated, hasn't he? By the women in charge now, as in the women in charge of the studios. But anyway, hopefully it's going to change. Right, where were we? Start again. During its 7-season run, Star Trek Voyager boldly pushed the boundaries of the franchise's narrative to places few Star Trek series had gone before. That's true in virtually every sense of the concept, as the bulk of the series was actually set in quadrants of the final frontier. It was set in the Delta Quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy. Of the final frontier, almost entirely unexplored by Federation ships. Well, yeah, they'd never gone there. In exploring those places, Voyager was one of the more thrillingly original offerings in the entire Star Trek franchise. I don't know, it kind of went back to the original series and Next Generation, didn't it? It was a ship-based series where they had a different adventure every week, and an alien of the week, which is what it were all about. Because although Deep Space Nine is now beloved, I think at the time when it was airing, I don't think it were getting as good viewers as TNG had. So they thought, well, we'll go back to the tried and trusted ship-based Star Trek. And but anyway. Right, well, as with every addition to the Star Trek franchise, Voyager was, of course, wholly indebted to the groundbreaking original series. During one season 3 episode in particular, Captain Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, and crew paid homage and then some to the OG ranks when they had a first-hand encounter with the USS Enterprise alum, Captain Hikaru, it's supposed to be Hikaru Kato Sulu. Is that his middle name? I didn't know he had a middle name. Never mind. George Takei. They spelt that wrong. What is the matter with these articles today? Doing my head in. Their paths crossed in an episode titled Flashback, which found Voyager's Klingon crew. Klingon is Vulcan. Voyager's Vulcan crew member, or one of his Vulcan crew members, there's a few. Lieutenant Tuvok. I can't remember. Season 3. Maybe he still was a lieutenant. I think he got promoted during season 3 to lieutenant commander. I could be wrong. Anyway, Lieutenant Tuvok engaging in the mind meld with Janeway before eventually reliving his own time serving on the USS Excelsior under Captain Sulu himself. At least they got that bit right. Yes. There's no proofreading these days. Hurts my head. Yes. I mean, nobody's perfect, but sometimes they spelt it right there. Look, so we'll say that was a typo. Joining to K on the bridge of the Excelsior was another Enterprise alum, Commander Janice Rand, who was played by Grace Lee Whitney since the first season of Star Trek. She was only in a few episodes at the beginning of season 1, to be completely honest. She left. I think she left under a bit of a cloud. I think there were allegations of misconduct. Not from her, towards her. So she left. Anyway, according to comments made by the actor, which actor? We're talking about Grace Lee Whitney. If we are, I'll say actress. In a 2011 interview with StarTrek.com, Flashback was originally eyed as a backdoor pilot for more adventures with the Excelsior crew. Unfortunately, the spin-off never materialised, with the one-off Voyager episode marking one of Rand's final appearances in the role. Yeah, I remember at the time that George Takei were, heavily plugging Excelsior or a Sulu series aboard the Excelsior within all the magazines, because it was before the internet. Well, for me anyway. So it was all in the Star Trek magazines and Sci-Fi Now and all them magazines. Starlog. They were always talking about a Sulu centered series. Anyway, as noted in the interview, 1996's flashback episode of Star Trek Voyager was undertaken as part of the 30th anniversary celebration of the original series' debut, with Star Trek Deep Space Nine paying tribute to Captain James T. Kirk and company via a triple-centric episode, Trials and Tribulations, it were called, the same year. As for Tuvok's and Captain Janeway's encounter with Captain Sulu and Commander Rand, it occurred largely in the mind of Tuvok as he fought off a damaging virus that created a troubling false memory, one that true Trekkers know coincided with the events of 1991 Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Fondly recounting the experience in the same StarTrek.com interview, Grace Lee Whitney said, "It was just a great episode. There we go. If that had happened, perhaps Takei's jealousy wouldn't be so bad. These last several years. Yes, I think it'd have mellowed a bit, wouldn't it? But or maybe not. Maybe they just got worse, and it'd have been more confrontational. Maybe I had the better series sort of thing. But anyway, I've gone off George Takei. I used to like him, but I've gone off him. Anyway, where were we? I forgot where I was now. Fondly recounting the experience in the same StarTrek.com interview, Grace Lee Whitney said, "It was just a great episode. Kate Mulgrew was amazing, and Tim Russ told me that he just loved me as a kid. We all loved Janice Rand. We all loved Yeoman Rand. And here we were working together. It was great." She goes on to add, the producers, told us it was a backdoor pilot for an Excelsior miniseries. Unfortunately, Whitney claimed producers couldn't generate enough interest to get the miniseries off the ground. Likewise, her own idea to bring original Star Trek players back to Voyager every few months also fell on deaf ears. Given how much fun Whitney, George Takei, and I spelt it wrong again, and the Voyager crew were clearly having in Flashback, that dashed miniseries feels like a legit missed opportunity for Star Trek bosses. Nonetheless, as a one-off, one could easily rank Flashback among the best of the 168 Voyager episodes that made it to air. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Although it is canonically in error, because it shows Beltane get killed in the episode where he didn't die in the film. In Star Trek 6, he didn't die in that, but in this it shows him get killed. And you could say, oh, well, it's within his mind, so it's a false memory. But Tuvok did kind of intimate that did actually happen, but never mind. Never mind. Yes, where's oh my? Said he goes for Rigel 7. Anyway, so there we go. Yes, I like Flashback. I watch it regularly. It's one of those episodes that if I don't want to watch Voyager, in order, I'll pick several episodes out, and I'll watch Flashback, and I'll watch Scorpion, and what's another one I'll watch? I watched Threshold. I like that one. I don't know why people don't like Threshold, but I watched that one as well. And Caretaker, the pilot. I think the pilot for Voyager is a really good one. Right, let's move on. Are we getting there? We're getting there, yes. Right, Futurama. Year of Hell. Yes, that's another good one. Yes. Which were originally were going to be the entire season, wasn't it? Season 4 were going to be the Year of Hell. And then they ended up just doing it as a 2-parter, which were probably the best idea, to be honest. But yes, Year of Hell's a good one. With the Krenim and was it Anarax, played by, I forgot his bloody name, the fella from RoboCop. Anyway, Futurama directors tease which characters could return in new Hulu revival. No Simpsons crossover planned. Comic-Con. Futurama's a show that I used to watch religiously, probably for the first season, and then sort of like forgot about it and never watched it again. And I don't know how far behind I am now. I don't know how many seasons there's been in Futurama. But it's just one of these shows that I used to really like, but then forgot to watch, and I've never caught up. Anyway, Futurama came back to San Diego Comic-Con today to celebrate the revival of the Matt Groening David X. Cohen series, which hits Hulu on Monday, July 24th. Attendees, or is it going to be on Disney Plus in the UK? I hope so. I haven't checked actually to see if Futurama's on Disney Plus. I will have to look and start watching it again. I've too much to catch up on. Anyway, attendees in a packed Ballroom 20 were entreated to the season's first episode, The Impossible Stream. It's been 10 years since we last saw... Hang on, hide articles, go away. It's been 10 years since we last saw this motley crew on Comedy Central. Director Peter Avanzino fielded a kid's question who wondered if Robot Bender's doppelganger, Flexo, was coming back. See, because I watched it, I have no idea what you're talking about. Just start over and roll through it. There are very few bad episodes. Yeah, I'm going to have to just do that. I'm watching Star Trek Lower Decks. Because I've said I hate it, but I thought with this latest episode of Strange New Worlds, I thought I'll give it another go because I enjoyed this latest episode. So I thought I'd give it another go. So I watched the first episode again today, and I was getting a little bit cross. My finger ends weren't tingling. I wasn't getting that angry. But it's still a little bit annoying. But we'll see how I go. I'm being told it gets better and less annoying as it goes on. Right, where were we? Flexo. Right, Avanzino gave that a definite maybe. Flexo, who looks similar to the series' main Robot Pro tag, Deadline in it. Deadline's always using like jargon. Protagonist is known for speaking contrary to how he actually feels before correcting himself, often seen when he slanders or insults an individual, only to follow with, "Nah, I'm just messing with you, you're all right." Well, there's people like that, isn't there? Avanzino mused that he'd love to see the return of Enemabot, who had one or two lines in the show. Enemabot. Other characters the Helmers mused they'd like to see return are Roberto the Robot, known for stabbing people and objects and robbing banks. The panel today included Edmund Fong, Andrew Han, Iris Chirac, E.P. Claude Katz, and Crystal Chenzi Thompson, or Tom Spon. I think that's supposed to be Thompson. Jargon keeps Deadline hip. Yeah, probably does. It's for the kids, isn't it? It's for the kids. Dude. It's cool. Anyway, said Fong, I like Amy's mum and dad. Leo and Inez Wong own Mars's entire Western Hemisphere, the best hemisphere on Mars. They make their fortune raising Boogaloo, a breed of livestock found on Mars. They are extremely hopeful that Amy marries a man and provides them with grandchildren. Asked whether there's a crossover plan, such as what happened with The Simpsons and Futurama. Yeah, they're not about Futurama now. Do they mean Simpsons and Family Guy? Is that what they mean? Because there were a crossover there, weren't there? Katz answered, right now we're trying to focus on our show. The official log line for the new iteration, after a brief 10-year hiatus, Futurama has crawled triumphantly from the cryogenic tube, its full original cast and satirical spirit intact. Is that the log line? It's a bloody long one. Anyway, the 10 all-new episodes of season 11. Oh, so there's 11 seasons, is the crikey. Season 11 of something for everyone. New viewers will be able to pick up the series from here, while long-time fans will recognise payoffs to decades-long mysteries, including developments in the epic love story of Fry and Leela. Is it me or like Leela hot? Even though she just had one eye. I don't know. I think it was the voice. The married with children wife, wasn't she? I can't remember the actress's name. She was kind of hot as well. The mysterious contents of Nibbler's litter box, the secret history of evil robot Santa, and the whereabouts of Kif and Amy's tadpoles. Meanwhile, there's a whole new pandemic in town as the crew explores the future of vaccines, Bitcoin, cancel culture. That nearly went hideously wrong, didn't it? And streaming TV. Futurama first premiered in 1999 on Fox. 199 on Fox. And quickly gained a faithful following and acclaim, including 2 primetime Emmys for Outstanding Animated Program. The series was released on DVD from 2007 to 2009 to great success, which spurred a rebirth on Comedy Central from 2010 to 2013. The series follows Philip J. Fry, Billy West, a New York pizza delivery boy who accidentally freezes himself in 1999 and gets defrosted in the year 3000. In this astonishing New York, he befriends hard-drinking robot Bender, John DiMaggio, and falls in love with Cyclops Leela, Katie Sagal. Yes, is it Sagal or Sagal? Sagal. From Married with Children, and the trio find work at the Planet Express delivery company founded by Fry's doddering descendant, Professor Hubert Farnsworth, together with accountant Hermes Conrad, assistant Amy Wong, and alien lobster Dr. John Zoidberg. I'm smiling because it's a personal memory of me. Anyway, I'm going to tell you the story. I wrote a book. When I wrote my book, Mercury Rapids, when I first wrote it, way back when, probably around about 1999, actually, and had it published. Got in touch with the local newspaper, so they came out. They sent a photographer out for the story about, local lad writes book, and they had copies of my book, and they were saying to me, they took pictures of me, photos of me out in the garden, and they said, look down with your face, but up with your eyes, and so like that. And so I would then describe my mate laughing and describe me as Zoidberg. I don't know why I had to look down with my face, but up with my eyes. I don't know, but that's what they told me to do. And I say, I look an idiot in the newspaper, and I didn't sell any books. Anyway, Zoidberg. They embark on thrilling adventures that take them to every corner of the universe. Season 11's 10 episodes will be dropping weekly, with another 10 set to air in the long run on Hulu. So, the one question I always had about the show was, with whom did Fry have a child that led to the professor? I don't know. Well, maybe is he a descendant, or could he did Fry have a sister that, is related, the family line, but not a direct descendant? Is it? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the law. Or maybe they took some of his seed while he was frozen and used that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to check and see if it's on Disney Plus. Let's have a look. Right, let's see. Am I still signed in? I am. Right, good. So I don't have to, because I can never remember my bloody password. Where's the search thing? Right, search. Futurama. Future. Yes, there it is. Futurama on Star. The stuff on Star, I think, is equivalent to what you get on Hulu in America. And season 11 coming to Disney Plus July 24th. There we go. Cool. So I'll be watching Futurama later. Put that in my watch list. There we go. Ticked. Huzzah! Right. Where were we? So that's that done. So some good came out of that article. I'm going to watch Futurama again. Right. 2 more articles and then we can go home. I'm home already. Whatever. Right. There we go. How Oppenheimer pulled off an atomic bomb explosion without CGI, a giant aquarium, balloons, and more. I thought he just got lots of TNT and used that. I thought that was what he was saying. He just blew up and did a massive explosion that wasn't atomic. Atomic day, 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 day. I never liked Blondie when I was a kid, but I kind of like him now as I've got older. Never mind. Because it wasn't metal. But don't tell that to the rock, was it Now Rock channel, that music channel that we've got in the UK, Now Rock. Other plays like Blondie and The Clash. That's not rock. Anyway, in 2020's Tenet, Christopher Nolan blew up a 747. And for his latest feature, Oppenheimer, he recreated the Trinity test without using visual effects. Opting to find a way to do it in camera instead. I bet it was touched up. Obviously, we couldn't make an explosion the size of the actual explosion, so we used trickery. Cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema. Sorry. What were his parents like? I bet they were a laugh at parties. Anyway, explains. And no, they didn't detonate a real atomic bomb. The 10-minute sequence capturing the first ever successful atomic bomb detonation came together through many experiments. It was a given that Nolan would do the scene in camera. We're suckers for this absolute depth of resolution that IMAX gives us, Van Hoytema says. But when you go to VFX, you have to scan it. And the moment you do that, it loses half of its resolution. Well, scan it in higher resolution then. Their goal was to preserve the quality of the film stock. Despite not using VFX, Nolan and Van Hoytema worked closely together with special effects supervisor Scott Fisher and visual effects supervisor Andrew Jackson they were a president, wasn't they? On a number of experiments to see how the scene could play out. Van Hoytema says, we created science experiments. We built aquariums with power in it. We dropped silver particles in it. We had molded metallic balloons, which were lit up from the inside. We had things slamming and smashing into one another, such as ping pong balls. Sorry, that joke. Never mind. Or just had objects spinning. We had long shutter speeds, short shutter speeds, wide negative colour, negative overexposure, underexposure. It was like a giant playground for all of us, the DP recalls. How Van Hoytema and the team actually pulled off the jaw-droppingly spectacular moment remains a mystery. With each experiment, Nolan and Van Hoytema would look at how the combination came across on screen. The Trinity, another spelling mistake. The Trinity test, was something that came together and was cobbled from the miniatures of that science experiment under the guidance of Christopher Nolan and my guidance that we pushed slowly in certain directions in order to serve specific functions in these sequences is all he can say. I thought they just blew something up. In total, the sequence took several weeks to film, Van Hoytema explains. The build-up was fragmented. There's a lot of cross-cutting and people doing different things before it culminates, he adds. It's this immense group of people from all over the country who put their heads' energy together and under the guidance of Oppenheimer led this project into that final bang. Known for his widescreen vista shots, Van Hoytema says his assignment this time was to capture the intimacy, since the story was being told from Oppenheimer's point of view. A certain point of view. Van Hoytema explains. It was very much about what was going on inside his head, what he's thinking, and what we can read in his eyes. So we really need to be there with him and progress that throughout the story. However, there was another story threaded into Oppenheimer, that of the confirmation hearings of Louis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., And that was where Nolan and Hoytema chose to integrate black and white. It was a way to separate Strauss's experience away from the colour stuff, the DP says. But black and white IMAX stock in 70mm did not exist. Right? The cinematographer went to Kodak and asked if the film supplier could manufacture the stock. Van Hoytema says, they came out with test rolls for us to run through our camera. We had to re-engineer our cameras a little bit. We had to remake our pressure plates, and our back-end lab work needed to be readjusted. He adds that what he thought was going to be very simple became a big engineering feat of a work pipeline from pre-production to production and then on to post. Says Hoytema, I do remember when Chris and I were sitting in the cinema and watching the results of our first black and white test, and it was just freaking amazing. We had never seen anything like it. Very good. I've got the feeling, though, I'd probably find it boring because I'm not a massive Christopher Nolan fan, to be honest. I like The Prestige, but I wasn't a huge fan of his Batman films. They were okay. I didn't love them. To be honest, I prefer the Burton and I prefer the Schumacher Batman films to Nolan's films. But I appreciate he's a good filmmaker and he's got a good eye. But I'm not a huge fan of his films. I did like Insomnia. That was a Christopher Nolan film, wasn't it? That with Al Pacino and Thingamabob, Robin Williams. That's a good film. She says, agreed on The Prestige and Nolan's Batmans. Yes, I don't dislike them. I just prefer the others, you know. But I think Christopher Nolan's a filmmaker I more admire for the way he works than the actual films he makes. I'm kind of like that with Ridley Scott. I'm not a huge fan of Ridley Scott's work either, for the most part. But I kind of, you know, I like his eye rather than his films, if you know what I mean. Like Blade Runner, for instance. You know, I'm not a massive fan of Blade Runner, but I do like it. But I'm not a huge fan, like some people say. But it's kind of a film I want to put on in the background and just listen to the music and the sound effects rather than, you know, watch the film. Because I find it a bit dull, to be honest. But you know, I love the music and the hearing the spinners flying about, you know, Los Angeles and stuff. Anyway, that's also fair. Ridley Scott's a bit hit or miss. He is, yes. He is. I think Gladiator's probably his best film. Even that's not perfect. But I did like, actually, I'm lying. I don't think Gladiator's his best film. I think Black Hawk Down is Ridley Scott's best film. That's amazing, is that film. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So I won't see Oppenheimer till it comes on streaming. I won't go see it, you know, in IMAX or whatever. I'm sure it's an interesting film. I've not seen it, obviously, but I did put on a board, I think a Discord thing, that in my head, it's just a film with lots of brainy men with pipes, talking in rooms, talking about radiation poisoning, and then the Trinity test, and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then the final card says, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, the end. That's how I look at it. But apparently, he goes through Florence Pugh, doesn't he? And I think that's the only reason it's an R certificate, because there's a sex scene in it, which is apparently you know, pointless. But anyway. Alien, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator. Yes, Alien as well is a good one. Yes, yeah. Yep. Right, next. Let me get rid of that. The last. This is, and finally, I'm going to press the wrong bloody button again. Right. And finally, full screen. This is a big cat story. I haven't done for a while, a big cat story. Can't imagine why I do big cat stories. Just a minute. Come here, you bloody thing. Can't imagine why I do big cat stories. But there is a reason. Right. Livestock ripped to pieces. By the way, the first thing that caught my eye was all this UFO stuff up here. Shadow T-shirt, UFO interceptor. I think it's a what they call it, technical manual, isn't it? UFO comic anthology. Ooh, that's interesting. What's that? UFO music by Barry Gray. Wow. Dint, 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 dint. Oh, that's like bloody Mission Impossible, didn't it? Anyway, yeah, sorry, that caught my eye. But we're doing livestock, right? And there's a sale on at John Lewis. Oh no, tin sardines. It changed just as I looked. Never mind. Livestock ripped to pieces, carcasses with huge puncture marks deep into the bone, more than 1,300 reported sightings, and wildlife experts are taking them seriously. Does this new dossier prove big cats are on the prowl in Scotland? Two men in Bridekirk reported seeing a large cat the size of a Labrador in 2018. It is believed the creature roaming around Dumfriesshire was a black leopard. The Scottish Big Cat Research Team says preliminary findings may back this up. There we go. It was just after 10 p.m. and light was draining from the sky when the two villagers saw a very large black cat, the size, said one, of a Labrador. Silently, the animal stalked the edge of a field close to the village of Bridekirk near Annan. I've no idea where that is. It's near Bridekirk, before vanishing quickly out of sight. Large house cat, well-fed dog, or it could be that the creature roaming this bucolic corner, bucolic, and that's a wee coffin, I don't know, of Dumfriesshire was in fact a black leopard. So apologies for all the adverts, by the way. The only way I could look at this page was to turn off the ad blocker. But breaking news. Holly Willoughby will present this morning with a rotation of co-hosts. Wow. Astonishingly, Paul MacDonald, head of the Scottish Big Cat Research Team, who has already dispatched a field researcher to the area following the sighting last week, says that preliminary findings may point to the latter. As it being a big cat, yeah. We are convinced it was a genuine report and that it is something of interest to us, given the size of the cat and the description of it. That actually looks like a big cat, doesn't it? I must admit. I mean, it might not be, because cats, even domestic cats, can look like big cats, can't they? But that does look like a leopard, doesn't it? But we don't know, because we haven't got any context, and really, have we? We don't know how big it really is. Anyway, without photographic or DNA evidence, however, last week's sighting may remain one of the thousands of unsubstantiated reports that have plagued the Scottish countryside for decades and fueled the eternal question, are big cats living wild in Scotland? They're living wild everywhere. Hello, Tease. You're just here again for the end. You did this last time, didn't you? Big cats, they're living all over the UK. As I've said before in these live things, my dad said he saw one, and he lived near Scarborough in North Yorkshire on the east coast of the UK, of England. And he says he saw one night. He were out, he lived in a bungalow, and there was like a little stream at the bottom of his garden. And then there was like a bridge over it, and they were just like out for his evening, what they called, constitutional. And then he said he saw this bloody big cat just trotting across the bridge. Says it terrified him. But obviously it didn't get him or anything. It just, went off into the fields. But couldn't believe it. Anyway, recently released documents, however, might just put paid to the doubters. Details of a number of sightings of big cats have been released by the makers of an upcoming documentary. I think I've talked about this before, haven't I? Suggesting that the thorny issue of whether or not panthers, lynx, and black leopards roam Scotland has been taken seriously by several official bodies. Don't forget wolves. So I still maintain I saw a wolf that night. Here in this town that I live in now in West Yorkshire. Still think it was a bloody wolf. Wasn't just a big dog. I think it was a wolf. Anyway, researchers obtained 86 pages of correspondence and pictures under Freedom of Information laws from Police Scotland, the Scottish Government, and Nature Scott. They include tantalising reports about spates of livestock killings where sheep carcasses were stripped of meat in a way which didn't resemble fox or bird attacks, and one officer who recorded 3 to 4 sightings of a big cat. Scottish Natural Heritage, SNH, recorded a description of a big cat the size of a Labrador, which killed 36 sheep between August 2015 and January 2016, described as a black or brown, as black or black-brown, depending on the light, and panther/melanistic leopard. In April 2019, the charity Scottish Wildcat Action was told of a lynx-type cat near Montrose, which is a town in Scotland, not a pop rock band. Where's Windgrace today? Asked DJ. I think he's away on holiday. I think not back till tomorrow. I think because he were angry because he's missed the latest episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, because that dropped yesterday, Saturday, and because he's away, he couldn't see it. So he wanted to do a review of it, obviously, for his channel. And they couldn't do it, so he's a bit cross. Anyway, where were we? The body was about the size of my female black lab, the sender of an email said. Back legs and chest were a lot more defined on the cat, and muscular short tail, maybe 4 or 5 inches long. Oh, this is the lynx in it they're talking about. All the little tufts of fur sticking out past the top of its ears. In November 2018, experts found a ewe carcass had been dragged 20 yards up a rock face, and a police officer told Scottish Wildcat Action about lots of reports of big cat sightings and activity on the north coast. The officer said, "I was present when a ewe was brought in off the hill with 2 puncture marks on the front of her right shoulder and 2 at the back of it. The wounds were over 3 inches apart." 3 inches. That's that. That's 3 inches. So I suppose quite big. Bigger than a domestic cat, I suppose. The bite radius. Going all jaws. Other carcasses had very large puncture marks into the bone. Well, there's a nice photo of Bill Murray checking a sheep carcass. No, he's not. He's Andy McLachlan of Kurtomi. Mr. MacDonald has been steadily mapping... How was this going for? Mr. MacDonald, who has been steadily mapping all reported big cat sightings in Scotland over the past 5 years, is not surprised. We believe that there have been sightings fairly frequently over the years, but we only receive the smallest proportion of those, he says. In fact, we conservatively estimate our mapping to document no more than 1 to 5% of all sightings there have been in Scotland, and we have over 1,300 pinpoints on the map. That's a lot of big cats. Well, maybe some of them are repeat sightings of the same animal, hopefully. Then again, when you consider that as of 2020, according to Charity Born Free, 320 wildcats, including 11 lions, 8 tigers, 11 leopards, 18 pumas, 10 cheetahs, 2 tigers, 2 ligers, lion and tiger hybrid offspring, and 1 jaguar, or jaguar, as they say in America, are currently being kept privately in the UK. It seems eminently possible that a few big cats may indeed be roaming the British countryside. There's always been an illicit trade in exotic species, says Mr. MacDonald. I think it's almost impossible to eradicate that completely, and as long as that's existed, then associated issues have existed with it as well. We're going to get down to it. I was going to mention the Dangerous Wild Animals Act, but we'll talk about it down here. If owners ever find themselves in a place where financially or logistically those big cats and animals become unsupportable, releasing them into the wild is a way of making them disappear quickly without having to actually destroy them. Dr. Mark Jones, head of policy at Born Free, agrees these figures are likely to represent only the tip of the iceberg. he says. They only record those animals being kept and registered with a dangerous wild animals license. Born Free believes that many additional dangerous wild animals are being kept without a license. Although sightings of big cats in the Scottish gloaming go back to the 1940s, there was a huge uptick in the late 70s following the Dangerous Wild Animals Act of 1976, which meant licenses had to be sought from local authorities in order to keep anything other than a regular domestic pet. I said there were towards like the Beast of Bodmin and the Surrey Panther, or was it Surrey Puma? I can't remember. I think it was Surrey Panther, whatever. Around that time, many owners of big cats decided that instead of giving their animals to a zoo or a wildlife park, they would prefer to release them. That was certainly the case with Felicity the Puma, who was caught by a farmer near Dumnadroit in 1980. Big cat footprint was discovered by police and animal welfare experts in the woods near Balburney Park Golf Course in Fife in 2005. So there you go, as big as a man's hand. For years, the area had been plagued with reports of a big cat killing sheep and even stalking Shetland ponies until farmer Ted Noble, concerned about the threat to his livestock, set a trap to find out exactly what was going on. But even he was astonished to find a fully grown live puma in it. The puma was taken to Highland Wildlife Park, where it soon became clear that rather than a vicious wild animal, Felicity had clearly been a pampered pet, used to dining on cooked food and enjoying pats on the head. She died 5 years later at the age of 20, far beyond the lifespan for a wild puma, and was later stuffed and put on display in Inverness Museum and Art Gallery. Former pets or not, however, one has to wonder, do big cats roaming wild? And Mr. MacDonald estimates that most sightings in Scotland have been of pumas, lynx, and melanistic, very dark brown or black leopards, pose a risk to the public. There have never been any recorded incidents of direct impact on humans with big cats, he says. We believe that the reason for that is that actually the UK offers quite an ideal environment, a perfect, lush, pretty, abundant environment with healthy cover. We think they're living comfortably enough. They're not desperate enough in terms of food shortage to see us as prey. Big cats, on the whole, tend to avoid human contact and will avoid any animal it can perceive as a threat, because if a big cat is injured, it can't hunt, which means it dies. The makers of the documentary, Pantheris Britannica Declassified, however, who released the documents on suspected big cat attacks, said the threat has more to do with a lack of responsibility. Any concerns for public safety linked to big cats on the loose were glossed over, with a reassuring sentiment from one detective inspector who said he was happy that there's not an imminent risk to public safety if it's well fed, a spokesman for the documentary makers said. As you said, I'm sure the big cats are enamoured of the pretty countryside. I'm sure they are. It's very pretty. That's what it says there, doesn't it? Pretty. Oh dear. But without reliable and accurate data on the number of big cats at large and precisely how well fed they are, this might do little to reassure anyone. Indeed. And it would seem that any big cat population could pose a threat to livestock as we've seen, they get sheep. In addition to the attacks detailed in the Freedom of Information papers, Mr. MacDonald says he has had reports of sheep and deer carcasses found up trees. Which is what leopards do, don't they? Drag the prey up trees. It's one of the reasons why Mr. MacDonald says he keeps the precise details of many of the big sightings reported to him under wraps. Is that a leopard, or is it just a big black moggy? Don't know. There are certain gamekeepers. God, it's going on. Is this article, isn't it? Oh, I'm nearly done. Nearly done. There are certain gamekeepers and farmers that have made themselves known to us and made their intentions clear that they would shoot a big cat on sight. We have known of cats that have been shot and gone to ground over the years, and that includes black leopard and lynx. Unfortunately, we have not been able at this stage to recover any of those remains yet to get further evidence. Pardon me. Steve, the new Monday Fave movie should be very good. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Close Encounters. I've got lots of favourite movies. I was struggling to find films that, you know, I don't like that everybody else likes. So that's why I stopped that. I thought, shall I go to 10? We've done 8. I thought, shall I, changing the subject. I've done 8. I thought, shall I try and get to 10? And I thought, oh no, sod it. We'll leave it at 8. So we got 8 episodes out of the Monday morning, didn't we? Anyway. Not familiar enough with the tall grass to guess the scale to the cat in the pic. Yeah, back here. Like I said, don't know how tall it is. I mean, it doesn't look massive, does it, to be honest? I bet that's just a black cat, to be completely honest. You know, a regular, you know, a domestic cat. I bet it is. Anyway, where were we? Despite a lack of concrete evidence, Joshua says, I bought the original as soon as this stream ends. Close Encounters. Yeah. I generally watch the collector's edition, to be honest. I think the original version is on, in the UK at least, is on Prime Video, Amazon Prime Video, because I stumbled across it. I thought, oh, I'll stick it on, because it were, you know, it were available on Prime at no extra cost, and it was the theatrical version. I thought, ooh, that makes a change. I thought he'd burned them all, you know, like George Lucas did with the original Star Wars, as after he did his special editions. I thought he didn't want to see the original version again. But anyway, where were we? Indeed, despite a lack of concrete evidence, Mr. MacDonald also has a tantalising theory about the lynx, thought to have become extinct in Scotland 1,300 years ago, whose controversial reintroduction to the land is currently under proposal at Holyrood, which is where the Scottish government sits. He believes the plans are obsolete because lynx are already here. I've had a meeting already at Holyrood with an MSP, member of the Scottish Parliament, leading the debate on lynx reintroduction, and we see our evidence so far as presenting an interesting picture, and one that can potentially even change the question from one of reintroduction to one of boosting a current population, he says. It's also one that counters any negative opposition to the whole idea of lynx being back in Scotland again, which is largely based on fear-mongering that they will devastate flocks overnight. But if they're already here, then the flocks are doing just fine. It's an intriguing thought, although one likely to irritate farmers and gamekeepers. Earlier this year, National Farmers Union of Scotland President Martin Kennedy called on Holyrood to reject any proposals to reintroduce lynx, saying it was causing considerable angst and anxiety to those who keep livestock in Scotland. They were on about reintroducing wolves as well. And yet, while concrete evidence remains slim, certain big cat sightings over the years have caught the public imagination. Look at this picture here. So I just got that looks big, doesn't it? Compared to that building, you know, the blurriness of it. It does actually look like a bigger than a regular domestic cat, doesn't it? That does to me anyway. So that's an interesting photo. I forgot where I want now. And yet, while concrete evidence remains slim, did I read this bit? Well, I'll read it again. Certain big cat sightings over the years have caught the public imagination. In 2007, the Beast of Banff, and that the noise that I forgot his name now. Him off X-Men 2 makes when he disappears and reappears. Anyway, a big panther-like black animal was spotted prowling above the links in the Aberdeenshire town by a holidaymaker and a local. I presume they're on about a golf course there. In 2015, I'm losing my voice. In 2015, a dog walker on the outskirts of Galashiels spotted a large black creature running past her. That's it, Nightcrawler. Banff. That's what I was thinking of. In 2015, a dog walker on the outskirts of Galashiels spotted a large black creature running past her, which she described as much bigger than my Labrador and with a long tail. 6 years before, a local councillor saw a panther-like cat at the edge of a forest in the same area. He claimed to have watched it for long enough to convince him that what he could see was a genuine big cat. And like I say, that does look like a big cat to me. Possible big cat sighting taken in the Irvine area of Ayrshire in 2001. I've been there. I've been to Ayrshire. A few years ago, me and Aidan went. It's very nice. Lots of castles. You know, You're driving around the countryside, and every time you go around the corner, there's like a ruined castle or parts of a castle. They're all over the place. Anyway, they're also like the what they call it, I forgot what they call it now. It's one of these magical places where water goes uphill and stuff like that. It's one of them places. I forgot what they call it now. The electric something they call it. But anyway, that's in Asia. Anyway, there have also been sightings of a big black cat in 2018 and 2020, 30 minutes down the road in Hoyg. In Angus, there have been many sightings of a big cat roaming the area over the past 20 years, particularly near Edzell, where witnesses, that's an American product, isn't it? I'm sure I've heard that before. Where witnesses reported seeing a panther-like creature in nearby woodland. One man even claimed that in 2001 he came face to face with the animal lying on a wall by the roadside. Not all sightings pan out, though. In Helensburgh in 2009, a panther-sized cat was caught on video by an off-duty police dog handler wandering near a railway line. It turned out to be an overgrown and well-fed domestic cat. As for the Bridekirk sighting, when it was posted on the local social media page, it turned out that the two villagers who spotted something slinking along the side of a field last week weren't the only ones to have had an encounter with the creature. I watched a big black cat for ages in the field from the park a couple of months ago, wrote one local. It looked bigger than a domestic cat, but not as big as a medium-large dog. So is it another animal misidentified, or yet more evidence that there really are big cats on the loose in our countryside? Well, I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming, to be honest. At least from the number of reports that we're getting. It seems, obvious that they are, and the evidence, is there. Like I said, there's paw prints, and that hasn't just died, has it? Something's ripped that apart, hasn't there? So, something's doing that. And the UK is not known for large predators. I think the largest, before all this started happening, these big cats are popping up everywhere. The largest carnivore in the UK was the badger. So there you go. But yes, it's very interesting. And obviously because of, that's why I'm interested in it, because I wrote a little book about big cats eating people, but it's not realistic. So there we go. Right, we'll leave that there. That's the end of that. So, right. So that was it. That was the last article. So we'll leave it there. Thanks, Joshua, for joining in, and DJ for coming in at the Nell. By the way, I'll have a look at this again. Hang on. Make myself small. There we go. This UFO stuff looks cool. I'm interested in that comic anthology. I'm going to click on it. Shall I click on it? Yeah, let's click on it and see what it takes us to. Oh, the official Jerry Anderson store. 35 quid. I'm not bloody paying that. Jesus Christ. Bloody hell, I'm not paying £35. Other pictures. I mean, it looks good and stuff, but not $34.99 good. Jesus. Phew. There's two. Or is it just same one with different? No, volume 1 and volume 2. Was that 35? Yeah, that's on it. That's for one of them. Not bother. Right, so I'm going now. Now I've satisfied my interest in that. So thanks, Joshua, for joining in, and thanks, DJ, for coming in at the end. And so I'm back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock for Magnificent Mondays, where we're looking at where we're looking at Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's what we're doing tomorrow. One of my favourite films. I'm going to watch that again, but I can practically, recite the film off by heart. But I'll just remind myself of it. Right. So yes, thanks. Adieu and all that stuff. Auf Wiedersehen, etc. Right. So thanks for watching. Wherever you are, look after each other, and until next time, I'll see thee.